Right, so I knew this was going to happen, and so there's a lot of misinformation going around, and it's mainly from the programs that are accredited by the CCNE in regards to whether or not the new requirements or even the old requirements require schools to provide clinical sites and or clinical experience for the students. A great way to kind of clarify that would be to just publish a video and get it out there and show you that they definitely do. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the new accreditation standards, old accreditation standards, so the different ways that it has been verified that the accreditation standards do require the schools to provide clinical sites and clinical experience. The reason why I'm filming this way is because I want to show you how to do that so you can do it yourself and you can be clear on this. All you got to do is pull up the standards. Alright, so here we go. Standards of Accreditation, CCNE. This one's it. Alright, here they are. You got the old one and the new one right here. You got the 2013 accreditation standards that go from 2013 to 2018, and then you got the new standards for 2019. They go into effect January 1, 2019, but they were written, of course, this year, 2018. If you go to the new standards, which are right here, I'm going to open it in a new tab. You can see when it loads here that it's the new standards amended 2018. Okay, and there's only two different places that are relevant to clinical sites and clinical experience. There's only two. Okay, you don't need to read the whole document, although I have read the document more than once. You will find from reading the whole document that there's only two relevant spots. Take you to those spots so that you know. Okay, and it starts with item 2, section B, and then there's also item H, and that used to be item E in the 2013 standards. Okay, so we're going to go to that too. And a quick way for me to do it is just type in clinicals. Okay, so here we go. This is the physical resources that the school is supposed to provide. Okay. Now, this is a document. It helps to understand what the document is for. The document is obviously to the schools. This is not telling the students anything. This document is not for the students. It's written to the schools so the schools know what the minimum acceptable standards are that is required by their accrediting body. And yes, just to get this out there right away, the schools have to follow this. This is their Bible, this is their law. Okay, without this document and meeting their accreditation standards, which allow them to get accredited by the CCNE, which allows them to receive financial aid, okay, they wouldn't be able to get any of that. So basically, none of their students would be able to get student loans, and that's how, you know, they receive their primary funds. It's from student loans, okay? So again, there's two sections. This is section B. It refers to the physical resources that the school must provide. And this is also where all the changes, the primary changes, have been made from the 2013 to today, the 2018. In that, clinical sites are now put under physical resources, which is very important because clinical sites are a physical resource, okay, that the school has to provide. It's not like you've got to go find your own building to go have the school and your own faculty to teach you, and then you just give money, and then they just, I mean, it's just ridiculous. Okay, so here we go. It's all right here. I'm just going to read it to you. So, physical resources and clinical sites enable the program to fulfill its mission, goal, expected outcomes. So their expected outcomes is that you graduate, all right? Just going to put that right there. All right, their mission is for you to graduate. Adequacy of physical resources and clinical sites, I love that, are reviewed periodically and resources are modified as needed. That means that if they don't have clinical sites or adequate clinical sites, they modify their resources to ensure there are enough clinical sites for the students to have clinical sites. And then right here is just the CCNE elaborating on what they need in this item. Okay, so all this elaboration is for this item, what they just said, what we just read. Alright? So, the elaboration is that physical space and facilities, faculty and staff, workplace, classrooms, meeting areas, are sufficient and configured in ways that enable the program to achieve its mission, goals, and expected outcomes, and that you graduate. Equipment and supplies, computing, laboratory teaching, learning materials are sufficient to achieve the program's missions, goals, and expected outcomes. Here we go. I love it. Okay? The program is responsible for ensuring adequate physical resources and clinical sites. Okay? Clinical sites are sufficient, appropriate, and available to achieve the program's mission, goals, and outcomes. A defined process is used to determine the currency, availability, accessibility, and adequacy of the resources. Clinical simulations, laboratories, supplies, clinical sites. I love it. So anyway, now I want you to pay close attention to something, and I'm going to address something right now. This information that's being put out there from the nurse practitioner programs is that it's the student's responsibility to provide clinical sites. Now, if you can't see that it's the school's responsibility, and that says so very clearly right here, then I can't help you. Okay? I can't help you at all, because I think it's as clear as day. Alright? And if you're a lawyer, okay, you could run with that right there, because that is liability on the school. This is a contract. It's an implied contract for you to receive federal aid. This is the school standards. They have to conform to it. The Department of Education says they have to, not just the CCNE, the Department of Education, alright? So this is a big deal, okay? Now, the program's also saying, again, that all this stuff right here, right, clinical sites are the student's responsibility, right? But everything else in this section, mind you, is the school's responsibility. Everything in here, if you read it, okay? Faculty, workspace, classrooms, meeting areas. Okay, so the school wants you to believe everything in here is for them to provide, except for clinical sites, that's for the student to provide. I don't think so. No way. That's ridiculous, okay? They don't understand the document, and that's pretty scary. If they think that, they don't understand the document. And that would definitely be concerning, because this right here is the minimum standard, and this right here was created to ensure that programs, nurse practitioner programs, on a systemic level are completable. But basically, that the way they're designed is good use of federal money, and that following this guideline makes them, credible. I mean, it's an accreditation. It makes them credible. It's a credible source of education. And if they're not meeting those standards, then that goes against their credibility. I also want you, again, to pay attention. I don't mean to beat this into the dirt, but I feel like I need to. Okay, so the program is responsible for ensuring adequate physical resources in clinical sites. Okay, responsible, okay? That's not stating, and this is what the programs are saying, that it's stating that it's perfectly okay, the way they're doing it now, having the students be responsible. But it doesn't say the program is responsible for ensuring students are responsible for finding clinical sites. I don't think so. And it's ridiculous to have nurse practitioner students doing this anyway, because first of all, the completion rates are low. Okay, there's a lot of people not making it in time. Alright? And second of all, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good, and it's noticeable. When students are going around, dry calling MDs, and searching and desperately looking for a preceptor. Will you be my preceptor? Next person calling. Will you be my preceptor? Door to door. Will you be my preceptor? And that's what they have to do. And it's not like the schools can be like, oh, don't do that. It doesn't look good. Because the school, the program, put them in that situation to where they desperately, and of course they're going to look. They're going to be desperate. They are out lots of money. They are about three-fourths into their program, and all that student loan and debt. I guarantee you, they will desperately search for preceptors, because that's their milk money. They're fighting for milk money, and it's a disservice for the school to not provide that, and it doesn't look good either. Okay, I digress again. But we're going to go on to the next section, which is the only other section in this whole entire document that is relevant to clinical experience, clinical sites, and all that stuff. It's another section, I think it's H. Is it H? Yes. Okay. So, the curriculum, I'm going to read it again, and there's only one part really that matters to us, is in the elaboration. Okay. The curriculum includes planned clinical practice experience that enables students to integrate new knowledge and demonstrate attainment of program outcomes. So namely, the program outcomes is that you're a competent nurse practitioner, that you graduate, that you give back to society the federal money that's being invested into the program and into you to increase, economics and all that stuff. Anyway, and are evaluated by faculty. But anyway, so let's get to it, alright? It's in here somewhere. I'm just going to skip this other stuff. Clinical practice experience includes opportunities for interprofessional. Clinical practice experience are provided for students in all programs, including those in distant education offerings. Okay, that right there is significant. Alright? I mean, that says it in and of itself to me. Now, it says clinical, we're going to read this again. We're going to do it more slow. Clinical practice experiences are provided. Okay? It didn't say the student will provide their clinical practice experience for students in all programs. I mean, like, online programs too. That's what they're getting at. And if you didn't get it there, they put a comma and they say, including those with distance education offerings. Alright? I mean, and that right there for me is clear as day, crystal clear. And again, it goes back to liability and lawyers, They love stuff like this because it's a give me. So, like I said, this is the new standard document and whatnot. And this right here, this whole section that we just read is pretty much unchanged from the 2013 to 2018 standards. So this is all applicable to the previous. Now, to show you that there is a major difference between the 2013 and the soon-to-be 2019 standards, I'm going to just use one word, clinical sites. That's the one word that proves there's a major difference. That's because if you go to the old standards, which we will pull up right now, and what we're going to do is just, it's a silly way to prove the point, but it's fast, and I think it's very effective. Okay, look at this right here, one of one. There was one time in this whole document, clinical sites were mentioned, and it was in the supporting document. That means that it wasn't even in a key element, okay? And the key elements are the key elements. I mean, they're key to the document. So, clinical sites, just one time in the whole entire document. Now, this is for the 2013 document. Now, when we go back over here, which is the 2018 document, we're going to do the same thing, clinical sites. Okay? No, that's clinical sites. There's 5 occurrences, and it's all under physical resources. With the previous document, clinical sites were not included under physical resources, and all physical resources the school is supposed to provide. Okay? And let's just be clear on that. Now, don't let any schools fool you. Okay, you're a student, you're a nurse practitioner student, know that your school is supposed to provide clinical sites and prepare clinical experience per the CCNE accreditation standards. Those standards are federal, okay? Ultimately, they're federal. Basically, the Department of Education federally recognizes the CCNE to create standards which must be implemented across the board to the school to receive financial aid. Okay, and they have to follow that. I mean, the Department of Education says so. If you don't think the CCNE has the power or the requirement to compel the schools, and you can look that up too, very easily. OPE. Oh, I don't think that's it. No, that's it. Okay. Right here. All right. So, Department of Education holds accrediting agencies accountable. That's the CCNE, the accrediting agency. Okay? The Department of Education holds accrediting agencies accountable for ensuring, remember that word, ensuring? that they enforce their accreditation standards effectively. Alright, that means that if the CCNE says it in their accreditation standards, the schools have to do it. And the schools aren't doing it, and it's many of the schools, not just one. That's one bad apple. It's a systemic problem, and that goes back to enforcing the accreditation, which the CCNE is going to do. Because the CCNE is representing nurses and students and the general public to protect the public and ensure that federal money is not lost and all that good stuff. Alright, so I'm pretty much done with this document. I want to go back to some other stuff that I would like to discuss. It really is mainly about the other ways that the interpretation of the standards have been validated. Okay, so there's been a few different ways, but anyway, namely, I called them and they said, yeah. I talked to the director of accreditations, Lori, and she said, yeah, the standards do require the schools to provide clinical experience and to be responsible for clinical sites. But anyway, so evidence, proofs, that our interpretation or the interpretation that I'm giving you right now is true, rather than what you're hearing from your professor or the faculty there. Initially, this is what I had posted on 8/23. Anyway, I have been in communication with the CCNE. The CCNE has confirmed that, yes, schools are required to find clinical placement. Schools can ask students to find clinical sites. They can ask you, which is probably a good thing because, you may know someone. You may have a good clinical site that you can get your foot in at the door, closer to home. There's a bunch of perks to it, okay? Clinical sites, so you can find your own clinical sites, but in the event where basically a student cannot find their own clinical site, the school would be required to step in. And, if you think that they don't have to find preceptors, remember again that they're responsible for clinical sites and clinical experience, okay? So it's not like you can say, okay, well, here's your clinical site. It's a building. It's a hospital. Here you go. You can go in there, but, I don't know, you're going to call the preceptor to meet you there because we don't do that. No, it's clinical sites. It can be inferred, and plus on top of that, there's clinical experience too, which has to be prepared, planned and prepared. All right. So they can ask you the school can ask you. There's nothing wrong with them asking you, hey, go find your own clinical site and your own instructor. But when it comes down to it, they are ultimately responsible for that physical resource, which is your clinical site, and the activity of learning of a clinical experience, okay? That's the school. That's why you pay them money, all right? You're doing them a favor when you find your own clinical site and your own preceptor, especially when it's for free, because the school has extra money on top of all the other money they're making, all right? And there's a lot of money in these programs, okay? They're known as cash cows, and not by me, by just known. There's a lot of articles out there about it. You can look them up online. Now, on to the next proof, and this email came from Lori, the Director of Accreditations at the CCNE. Okay, and I've got her email right here and her phone number. You'll be able to call her and verify yourself. Just cut to the chase. Just call yourself if you still don't believe it. Anyway, this is a verbatim quote, extraction of text from the email. Okay, while programs, whether online or on the ground or on ground, may continue to allow students to identify appropriate clinical practice experience and preceptors, ultimately it's the program's responsibility. They're throwing that liability back at you, programs and schools. You better watch it to ensure that students are able to get the clinical practice experiences they need to integrate new knowledge, demonstrate attainment of program outcomes. Now, on to the next proof. This is from the CCNE supplemental resources for standards to the programs. Basically, it's a document that helps the programs understand what they need to show to prove they're in compliance with the accreditation standards and help them understand, what the accreditation standards are and mean and how they their practical application. Okay, and so I've got that. It's over here. I think it's on this page. yeah, right here, supplemental resources, okay? So that's in this document. You can look it up too. It's on the same page that the accreditation standards are. Now, in regards to that preparing clinical experience, is in section 3-E of the 2013 accreditation standards. So basically, I'm going to show you from the document. So it's III-E. Okay. So you can see what it speaks about: qualifications, roles and responsibilities, inclusion of planned clinical experience, which is basically from the accreditation standards, and that's the key element, the key item, rather, that we went over. There we go. Okay, it's right down here on page 29. And if you look, you can see that this is the section that refers to the schools preparing clinical placement. Planned clinical placement is prepared, okay? Here you got examples of evidence. When I first read this, I wasn't too impressed as far as the liability that is indicated for the schools if they don't actually go out there and prepare clinical experience, because there's not a lot in here. And, it's disappointing. But then I scrolled down, I saw this great extra note. I don't know when they added it, but I love it. And it says, please note, if clinical practice experiences are not provided for any track within any degree and or program certification type, regardless of mode of program delivery. They're saying that, and I don't know why you would say that unless you had heard from programs. We're online. How can we provide that? I mean, it just makes me think that the person writing this has heard that, or that was on their mind. Okay? Now, I know that's me going out on a limb, but that's what I think. Anyway, so it says, regardless of mode of program. So they're saying regardless whether or not you're online or on ground. That's what they're saying there. Then it is cause for a compliance concern. And I love that, because that right there is gold. It's gold to me. It should be gold to the student. It should be gold to a lawyer if there is any kind of litigation issues. Which hopefully there's not. Hopefully all the schools just say, oh, this is what we're supposed to do. Let's go ahead and start doing it. But the programs, the problem is that they're not designed that way. They haven't been designed that way, So they're going to run into some issues and some concerns. Got the email I received from the NCSBN, okay, which is basically just saying, if your school doesn't give you clinicals, then report them. And I put a post out about that. And then now what should we go on to? Okay, the emails from the school. So what's the school putting out there? And this is the part that really makes me upset the most, I guess, because I'm getting emails from students that's, even now, getting emails from students saying, like, my school says, no, they're not going to provide clinical sites, and I may have to pay a third-party service to find my clinicals. I may have to be delayed. I don't know what to do, So, and I get a lot of those emails. And I'm talking a lot, and I save them, just in case. Anybody comes saying, hey, can you help us out? I'm like, yeah, I got that data. But, okay, this email, it says, I'm aware of the question related to this issue and wanted to provide you with what is currently known. CCNE has indeed made some revisions to the accreditation requirements and their 2019 standards. However, the requirements for clinical placement have not changed. Standard 3 continues to require the clinical experiences enable students to integrate their new knowledge and demonstrate attainment of program outcomes. Foster interprofessional, so they're just restating the standards. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, so clinical experience must align with the course and program outcome. The College of Nursing's current clinical placement process ensures that we are in compliance with our accreditation requirements and does not necessitate any changes in clinical placement, vetting of preceptors, or clinical experience. As such, students remain responsible for students remain responsible for finding their own clinical sites. Do I need to go back to the standards and read that to you? I think I beat it into you enough. I'm not going to. It says the schools are responsible, verbatim quote, okay? And that is section 2-B. You can look it up yourself. But, so this person doesn't know what they're talking about. They copied and pasted one thing, and they probably said something they heard Joe or Cindy say in the next office over. I don't know. But I don't know how much thought they're giving this, which is concerning. Anyway, so this was the email from a program to a student again. Okay, thank you for your patience. Apparently they had him waiting. Dr. So-and-so spoke to Executive Director of the CCNE regarding the Sawyer Initiative. Based on the conversation, school name just removed. So they're saying Joe Schmo's University procedures of students locating their own preceptors for clinical sites will not change. Okay. Please let me know if you have any questions. Have a great weekend. Now, this one did upset me to the most because this student, they're delayed. They don't have a precept. They don't have a clinical site. And they're out. And they're near finished with their program, 3/4 probably into it, and they're just trying to finish. And, I mean, look at that. Have a great weekend, guy, girl. You're going to be stressed out looking for a clinical placement, looking for a clinical site. Maybe you'll have to spend some extra money on top of all the debt and the money you paid to us to be your school. Communication to the student. Okay, so this is another email. The BSN, MSN, and DNP programs removed are accredited by the Commission on Collegiate Nursing Education. CCNE has confirmed that Walden's policies are in compliance with these new standards on January, blah, blah, blah. Nothing about Walden's current policies and procedures regarding nursing practicum will need to change. And I just read you the name a bunch of times. That's why I'm not a person who reads and does television. I would read what's ever there on the prompter. But anyway, so I don't mind so much about that one, because that one was my old school. That's what fueled the fire. I went there. Well, I guess I can talk about that. Well, basically, I wanted to be a nurse practitioner, okay? And it took me from 2012 to 2018 to be a nurse practitioner. That is a long time to become a nurse practitioner. And, you know, I had to go to basically 2 schools to become a nurse practitioner. It took me twice the time, twice the debt, actually more than twice the debt, and I ended up with an extra degree. But anyway, the red herring that's being presented by the school, that's what I feel like the schools are doing. Basically what a red herring is, where you present information that is leaving out other information that implies something other than what would be implied if you gave them all the information. So it's, you know, using ambiguity and obscurity and only presenting partial truth, kind of like that. Alright? So, to deal with that, you know, that's why I clarified the standards, and it's very important that the students be clear on the standards, and that the standards do require the schools to find placement. But basically, the red herring is, if you go back and you look at the information here, pretty much all the information that I've seen from emails from schools saying that they don't have to change, nothing's been changed, is saying the CCN is okay with the way we're doing things, which is probably true. The CCN is probably okay that they're having students find clinical sites and preparing and looking for their preceptors and whatnot. And that's true. That's a partial truth. Yeah, the CCNE is okay with that. They said that. Okay? But what they're leaving out is the rest and the most important part. And that is which they are required under the accreditation standards to find those clinical sites and prepare that clinical experience. Just like a PA program, just like an MD program, a DO program, an RN program, a CNA program, an LVN program. And guess what? Those people who say, I'm going to get on to something else now, those people who say that, oh, well, the nurse practitioner programs, they can't do it because they don't have the budgets for that. Well, I tell you what, if a CNA program can make money off their program and still find clinical sites and still find clinical instructors, and pay for those clinical instructors, but I'm pretty sure a nurse practitioner program can. And it's all set up online, you know? So that is not a good excuse for decreased quality, all right? And it is a decrease in quality when you do not have schools provide clinical sites and clinical experience. And that's just not me like guessing, like, where's the research for what you just said, sir? That's, you know, you don't need research to know that. When you have a student going out and desperately looking for just any clinical site, and a lot of students are desperate, and if you don't think so, you need to go get a reality check. If you think whoever they're going to find, you know, is going to be a necessarily good preceptor, you know, and if the standards from the university in Michigan, not Michigan University, I'm not saying that, but just a university in Michigan, Kalamazoo, Michigan, I don't know, Kalamazoo, Timbuktu, who cares where it's at? Okay, if you think that that school can ensure that a student in Texas has a good clinical site and a good preceptor, then you need a reality check too, all right? Because there is a lot of wiggle room there, and students shouldn't be responsible for finding their own clinical sites. The students shouldn't be responsible for identifying their own preceptors, even if they have a guideline from the school. Because first of all, they're working for the school. They're finding the resources for the school. You know, and that's not good. And second of all, they're desperate. They're going to take whoever, all right? That's why the school needs to do it. And it needs to be done that way, just like in all the other schools. And I know there's this push to create more providers, to expand nurse practitioners, because we're very good at what we do. And that's partly because we have a strong foundation as a registered nurse. And becoming a registered nurse, at least here in Texas, is, in and of itself, is a monumental thing. And it's because of that strong education I got as a registered nurse that I perform well as a nurse practitioner. And that's why you know, another thing is I'm big on having RN experience prior to entering nursing school, because assessment, okay, and learning medications, that bedside skills you learn, just being with the patient, near with the patient, is extremely important to a nurse practitioner. And it used to be that the whole greatest thing about the nurse practitioner was that they filled that gap between provider and patient as far as the bedside element. You know, that they were there, that, you know, then you know, work with the patient more. But we're losing that when you do a direct entry. So I'm not a big advocate of those programs, and I don't find them necessary. So yeah, anyway, I went on to the red herring, and then okay, you're overcoming the obstacles. I'm going to post this too, but videos are so easy to share and more impactful. And I wanted to get this message out there very clearly. All right. So the obstacle is basically attitudes and ambiguity. Ambiguity is the students not really knowing, you know, well, is this guy's blog true, or is the school true? So basically, yeah, the CCNA standards do require the schools to provide those sites and clinical experience, and that you need to know that. You need to be dead clear on it, dead certain. Call them yourself if you need that, okay? And be careful, because you kind of gotta get them to say it. They're not exactly up front. They might say some ambiguous terms, or requote the standards, or redirect you to the standards that you're asking them about. You can find that online if you need to read the standards. You know, you're asking how it applies practically. So you got to be very clear on that. Say, I want to know if, say it like this. I want to know if I can't find a clinical placement, and I can't find a clinical site preceptor, if the school is required to step in according to the standards and provide that for me, okay? And then you'll get the answer. All right, that's how I have to do it. And I don't know why you have to do it that way. That's a whole other world of questions. So anyway, overcoming the obstacles, the ambiguity, and attitudes. Attitudes being like, oh, we can't do anything. There's no point in changing. One of my favorite emails from Reddit. You know, I used to post the blog entries, the links to the blog, trying to build up support and awareness. And, you know, I was encouraging people to email the CCNE. And that person was like, what's an email going to do? And this is back in like March, you know, before the new standards came out. And I've forgotten about the email because I received so many negative emails, or negative comments, and stuff like that on Reddit or on Facebook. Uh, and then I returned to post about the We Did It post, which is basically the new standards were out, and it sounds like they heard us, that post. And I think that they did. I don't think that they would just come out and say, you know, we heard this dude on the blog, and, you know, some of these changes were because of him. I don't think they want to say that. But, so I went back to Reddit, posted the We Did It post, shared it on Reddit, you know, and, you know, it got upvoted a lot. And then I saw that comment, you know, it's like, what's an email going to do? Because I attribute all this. I know, it's been a while. I just finished up. I'm really almost done. Yeah, I'm discussing this. My wife doesn't understand any of this. She has no idea. Okay, shut the door. She doesn't know what I'm doing in the office when she's not around. Anyway. So, yeah, so this guy, you know, he had to post, what's an email going to do? And I attribute all this to emails, key emails that were sent, explaining the issue, bringing up the problem, encouraging other people to get involved too. And then, you know, John Cannon, Jeff Powers, and Chris Woods, and Ian, um, they were all part of this too, you know, as far as bringing awareness, and sending out emails and stuff like that. You know. So I had some great help from some great guys. A lot of people would gig us on the fact that we were all dudes, and it just so happened to be that way, and it was probably for the best because my wife would not be happy if I was talking to a bunch of chicks all the time. All right, that's just, she would not be happy. It would be hard to explain. Um, okay, so, you know, and then how you can help. I'm always like, share, subscribe, and I really do mean that. The biggest, like, the most important thing you could probably do is subscribe and share. And they kind of go hand in hand with me. And that helps build the awareness, and it keeps you in the system so I can talk to you and send you out emails, although, like, all my emails go to spam. I don't know why. I've been trying to work that out. But anyway. So, inform the CCNE if your school violates. See the letter to the schools, send it to your school if you want to. If you're brave, send it to your school. Put your name on it, stamp it there. Send it to your school. See the letter to the students and then share the URL, the website address link, and subscribe. And this is me talking about the video, this video that I'm going to put on here too. So anyway, that's pretty much it, I think. So, alrighty then.